I've been playing Clash Royale since it came out, so naturally there are going to be some things that I'm going to hate about it. And before I get comments about this, I'm not sending any hate to Clash Royale itself. This game shaped my childhood, and I honestly love the game. It's just that there are some things about it that I cannot stand that I wanted to talk about. So this is everything that I hate about Clash Royale as a long-term player. Some updates in Clash Royale just feel so pointless, and I feel like honestly, it would be so fun if they actually released things that make the game more fun. For example, the 2023 level 15 update was honestly so useless. I will talk more about level 16 in a bit, but I feel like the level 15 update was such a terribly thought out update. Not only are more levels basically useless in Clash Royale because it adds more grinding to the game, but level 15 itself was so difficult to obtain that you basically had to either reach higher leagues to get elite wildcards or pay money. Otherwise, you genuinely couldn't get level 15 cards, since it was the single hardest upgrade that the game has ever had, where having a fully maxed level 14 account would mean that you were only halfway there to maxing out your full collection. So essentially, there was a time in the game where if you paid around $9 to $10 per card, you genuinely had a competitive advantage. And the thing I hated the most about the update was the fact that very few players wanted new levels, and Clash Royale knew this. Before releasing the update, they asked the player base on their opinion on level 15. And even despite the hundreds and even thousands of comments against level 15, with the player base genuinely providing feedback instead of just hating for no reason, they didn't even acknowledge any of the player base's comments. And to make it worse, they fully ignored the Clash Royale creators who work pretty close to the dev team, who had also stated that level 15 was a pretty bad idea.
They 100% knew once the information released that 50,000 elite wildcards were required just to get to level 15, there'll be huge backlash. And we told them about this. Creators get the information a little bit early so we can create content, right? All the creators, right when they saw 50,000 elite wildcards, we tried telling them that this was just the biggest mistake, how it adds nothing to the game. It's just senseless grinding for no purpose, no reason.
I talked a lot about this in my video of the worst updates, which I made over a year ago at this point, so I recommend that you check that out. Another update where I feel like the dev team just kept ignoring the player base and just released things for literally no reason is level 16. Now, I do feel like level 16 is a better update than level 15, but the bar is already set pretty low if an update is competing with level 15. As I said before, new levels is never really a good thing, but we run into the same issue as before. They keep releasing updates that literally no one truly wants, and if I'm being honest, when I heard the announcement for level 16, I genuinely thought it was a joke. And with the new upgrade system, while they did make it easier to upgrade stuff to max level and removed elite wildcards, which was a pretty great change, they went and made it so that buying cards with gems is like an intended feature now, instead of it just being a thing that you would do if you made a mistake, or if you were genuinely that desperate for a specific card. I just don't see how any player was asking for Supercell to make it easier to buy cards with gems, and it just frustrates me to see such inconsiderate updates. I'm not saying that the updates are bad, I'm just saying that they completely go against what the player base actually wants. And again, it seems that Clash Royale just avoided the same backlash as what they got for level 15.
We got this information sometime last week, I think. We didn't get it that early, like I literally had no clue the removal of wildcards was because of that, but as you can guess, there was so much backlash. It was so much that I think we got up to 150 messages from different creators. Actually, almost every single creator.
I could keep going on about bad updates, but the main idea is still the same. Clash Royale keeps releasing features that the vast majority of the player base doesn't want, and they also keep ignoring the player base even though the player base is genuinely trying to give positive feedback. It makes me so mad that Clash Royale is seemingly incapable of releasing one good update with features that the whole community wants. Like for instance, keeping 2v2 ladder as a permanent game mode, having a temporary 4-card ladder mode instead of it just being locked to a game mode, or even making things like the Pass Royale better. It's crazy to me that there are so many good ideas around, but they still want to keep releasing boring updates that very few players actually enjoy. One thing that I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot of people talk about, is choosing the best decks. And I feel like looking it up online doesn't really paint the whole picture, since you may not have the best card levels or all cards unlocked. So recently, I've been trying out a website called DeckAI. It uses its own model to analyze hundreds of millions of Clash Royale matches. The main thing I love about DeckAI is honestly how professional it looks. It makes using it so pleasant, especially since it has no ads at all, meaning that it's so much better than a lot of stats apps I've used, and it genuinely saves me so much time, especially since I have to sift through so many Clash Royale stats as part of my videos. The workshop feature on the app is genuinely so amazing, since it does more than just take into account your arena. It also considers your card levels, as well as what cards you have unlocked, and it actively looks for the most popular decks in your arena, making it so much easier to build your deck. And for competitive play, I think DeckAI is literally like having your own coach. I ended up speaking to the creators of DeckAI, and I actually got a discount code for 15% off. Just use code Epsilon at the checkout to support the channel, and feel free to try out DeckAI, because even the free version is miles better than any other stats app that I've ever used. I'll leave a link down below. There are some specific features in the game that I just cannot stand, and I really want Clash Royale to rework them, but some of them may be controversial, so I guess it's up to the dev team. The first one is special challenges only giving gold. I feel like seasonal events are pretty fun, but they've completely ruined them now that the season shop isn't in the game. But there is literally no actual progression reward you get from seasonal events. I used to play almost all the old seasonal events, because there was actual season token rewards from them that made it worth it for me, since I play casually and don't really have that much time to sit down and complete a whole challenge. But now I very rarely play the special seasonal events unless it's something that I really enjoy. Even before, if there was an event that I didn't really like, I would still play it just because of the rewards. But now, there's barely any motivation to grind out these special challenges. I wish that Clash Royale would put other cool rewards as part of these special challenges, like maybe a book of cards or wild cards, instead of just gold and cosmetic features. Another thing I really don't like is the shop offers that prompt you to skip the challenge by paying 500k gold for the emote that you could get from the challenge. This one's really insignificant, so I won't go into too much detail for it, but I don't want it to become a precedent for Clash Royale to allow you to get something that should be somewhat exclusive to something that you can just buy. But again, it's not a big thing, it's just something that really frustrates me, especially since it's so taunting. I don't know if other people have the same problem. Another thing I hate is Clan Wars 2. I was gonna put this in its own section since I have so much that I hate about it, but I decided against it, since I don't want to be too harsh. But essentially, Clan Wars 2 takes away the whole point of Clan Wars, which is to get the whole clan to actively participate, and it also makes doing war battles a meaningless chore. It makes me so annoyed that Clan Wars has the potential to revolutionize how Clash Royale is played, and yet we are left to play this boring mode with no actual meaning. It's kind of reassuring to see Clash Royale make an attempt to make it relevant again, with the Clan Voyage, but Clan Wars 2 still sucks. Another thing that I feel is kind of weird is how they moved the ranked to be above 15k trophies, rather than making it a feature alongside Trophy Road like they had for the old Path of Legends system. I praised Clash Royale so much for the Path of Legends update in my older videos, since it actually allowed players to delve into competitive play without having to grind Trophy Road against overleveled players. But now that they've made it so that players that previously didn't play leagues have to play up to 15k trophies to get to leagues, it makes no sense. I took a short break for competitive play after the April 2025 update, since I was just super busy at the time, so I missed out on being eligible for ranked. So now that I have the time to play again, I'm stuck having to grind all the way back through Trophy Road to max trophy count again, just so I can play leagues. This one's honestly really annoying for me since I hate having to go up against super repetitive decks that have overleveled cards. But again, I feel like it's something that Clash Royale will not change until they revamp competitive play in a later update. The other thing I hate with the game is how inconsistent the lore is, and it seems that Clash Royale is making the lore more and more confusing with newer card releases. Again, this one's pretty insignificant, but as someone who is super interested in game lore, it just frustrates me. One thing that really gets on my nerves is when Clash Royale removes things from the game for absolutely no reason. You could enjoy a feature of the game, but in a random update, Clash Royale ends up removing it with literally no explanation. The biggest and most recent one for me is the fact that they removed global tournaments, and it's been away from the game for literally so long. I genuinely have no clue why Clash Royale has kept global tournaments out of the game for this long, when it's literally one of the only non-pay-to-win parts of the game. But I guess that question answers itself. And even in the level 16 update, removing the Book of Cards including the Book of Books seems like a pretty pointless removal, since the Book of Cards and Book of Books are literally game-changing for players who simply don't have enough cards to upgrade their cards. And then there's the Season Shop. The whole April update was a big joke in my opinion, but removing the Season Shop, which was the one good thing about the update for Losers update, actually made me so frustrated. Not only because they were nerfing free-to-play progression by straight up removing certain rewards that you could only previously get from the Season Shop, but but also because they didn't even fairly compensate players. And the thing is, the season shop was one of the only reasons that Clash Royale actually had active players. And something that I've always wondered is that they have player base data. They know that the seasonal events and the season shop was one of the most popular features among its players, so removing it is beyond me. The season shop was honestly a pretty perfect feature. It actually made special challenges worth playing, which is literally the point of Clash Royale. And the fact that they replaced the season token rewards in the challenges with a laughable amount of coins was such a spit in the face, especially since there was barely any motivation to play these special challenges aside from cosmetic features. And it gets worse. The April 2025 update was also when they removed the daily lucky drop streak. This was my favorite feature from the October 2024 update, since it was a perfect way to keep players actually playing. It made me excited to play Clash Royale every day, so I could get my daily lucky drop. Removing that daily streak lucky drop tanked my motivation to play, because it kind of made me think, is it really worth playing the same number of games per day for only 1 and 2 star lucky drops? It was basically like being punished for playing more games, especially since they limited the number of lucky drops you could win from battle per day. It's almost like they didn't want you to play more than 4 games per day. But it gets even worse. When Clash Royale removed gem rewards from the final level in Masteries, they didn't even fairly compensate it. In fact, I'm pretty sure they replaced the gems they removed with the gold equivalent from the gem to gold shop offer, which every player knows is one of the worst offers in the game. And again, their excuse was so dumb, where they stated that players were hoarding their gems, so they removed them to prevent that from happening. I feel like at this point, I've run out of ways to describe how angry these removals make me. Of course the players were gonna hoard their gems, since the best way to spend gems is either in global tournaments or grand and classic challenges. So this removal was genuinely useless. And one thing that I remember from a little older update was when they removed quests, because they had stated that Clan Wars 2 would contain the rewards from the old quest system. Quests were one of my most favorite features in the game, because it actually gave players fun challenges and good rewards. It is literally one of the most perfect updates, and honestly, the daily streak lucky drop got pretty close to it in my opinion. And you can tell how much I loved that update. So completely removing it with the excuse that Clan Wars 2 would fairly compensate players was yet another lie they made to deprive players of progression. And again, quests were genuinely a good feature that I know kept a lot of players actually playing the game. Another thing I feel like kind of counts if we're talking about features that get removed for literally no reason is the fact that 2v2 ladder is absent for months and months, despite it being the best feature they could ever release into the game right now. Why did they remove one of the only features that genuinely brings back a lot of players? There are honestly way more features that Clash Royale removed for literally no reason, but the general idea is still the same. It is honestly so annoying that they remove features from the game that players genuinely enjoy, especially when their reason for removing these features is so terrible. I find it insane that despite all the data that they have, especially with how popular certain features are like the season shop and the lucky drop streak, they remove them, so that players are forced to grind harder for resources, so that they can hope that they will end up succumbing to the pressure and opening their wallet. Since we're on the topic, if we look at it from the other way around, they seem to be really keen to remove actually good features from the game, but they are super hesitant to not remove bad features from the game. And also, they take forever to properly fix bad additions to the game or nerf broken cards. And I admit that it's pretty difficult to do everything, but I feel like there isn't any excuse for them to not fix literally game-breaking things, considering they were super quick to release the 6-7 emote. They have the resources to do things quickly. I just don't know why they don't. The biggest example of a mistake that took literally forever to change was the broken elite wildcard system. Everyone told Supercell that it was a broken upgrade system, and level 15 would have honestly been pretty tolerable if they just removed it and made level 15 a normal upgrade system, but it took them over 2 years to remove it, just to also add level 16. I also hate how new and broken cards are only ever properly balanced out well after the shop offers go away, especially since a lot of these emergency nerfs aren't really great nerfs, but when they do proper balance changes, it seems to fix everything. The best example is the Vines, where it got a tiny emergency nerf that did nothing on the first day, but when they had proper balance changes, it actually made it a pretty balanced card. The end of month balance update they gave the Vines should have been the day 1 emergency nerf, but I guess that would have actually made the Vines a balanced card on release. And if we look at it from the other side, they were extremely quick to emergency buff the Spirit Empress and the Rune Giant when these cards were released, so it's kind of weird how they allocate resources. I'll talk more about broken cards later on in the video. Another thing that happened recently was the fact that they removed the level cap on ranked ladder and even in special challenges.
Clash Royale has a massive problem right now. Even though it's at the height, I don't think the data is going to surface, but in this furnace challenge, the fire spirits are the level of your king tower. this goofy mode that's supposed to be for fun is really serious and it's level capped. And you literally can't play a fun, unserious mode if you don't have max king level. I think this is unhinged behavior. Look at this. My opponent has level 14 expo. My other gripe is that in the ranked that we're in right now, there are no level caps. Yeah, you had to reach 15,000 trophies for that. But once you reach 15,000, there's nothing else to grind for. I think it's just ridiculous. If I was playing it, look, level 14 cannon.
And it was only after OJ spoke up about it that they changed it. I just think it's crazy that large members in the community have to speak up so they can realize that they made a mistake and change it. It honestly makes me so frustrated that it takes some kind of backlash for them to fix mistakes in the game. And it makes me so sad because I know they have the capability to fix all the issues that the game has. I just don't get why they are so hesitant to fix things if it negatively impacts the player base. But as soon as something negatively impacts them, they are quick to fix it. I'm genuinely not even trying to hate here. I just wish they would give more attention to a wider range of things in the game. A big problem I have with the game currently is the fact that the threshold for brokenness of new cards and evolutions just keeps going up and up, and the power creep problem is as prominent as ever in its current landscape. And I feel like at some point, it's gonna be so high that even previously strong cards are just gonna be considered average on release. It's the same trend every time. Clash Royale releases a new broken card or evolution so that people expect that the next card or evolution will be of a similar strength, or more broken than the last card or evolution, so that the new card or evolution is more exciting on release. My concern here is that broken cards make the game even more unbalanced, since they not only have to nerf these broken cards, but also it indirectly makes other cards in the game worse, since the newer cards are just stronger and better. The best example of this that happened recently was the release of the Skeleton Army evolution. The Skami Evo was honestly a pretty strong evolution on release, but considering that before the Skami Evo was released, we got the Inferno Dragon, which was pretty strong but not super strong, then we got the Skeleton Barrel evolution, which was very strong, and then we got the Furnace evolution, which was even stronger, and then we got the Baby Dragon, which was also pretty strong on release. So over the 4 months before the Skami evolution, the player base's expectations of a new card evolution was extremely high, since the 4 previous evolutions were so strong that if they wanted to spend money on the pass, they would at least expect something that would be stronger than what they got previously. And when people found out that it was an actually balanced evolution on release, there was actual discussion on the fact that it was a weak card on release. And it's honestly fair enough. To put it into perspective, the Evo Royal Hogs literally takes one of the most reliable win conditions in the game and makes it rewarding to cycle them and play them more and more, while also allowing them to fly and deal damage when they land. And yet, it's not something that a lot of people are talking about as being OP. If something like this was released even back in 2020, people would say this is one of the strongest cards of all time. But it just goes to show how prominent power creep is in Clash Royale today. Even new cards follow the same trend. The fact that they very quickly buffed the Spirit Empress on release just because she was a balanced card, just so that she would meet the current threshold on how strong a card should be on release, was insane. And on the other hand, they kept Vines strong for a whole month, to the point where people had just become desensitized to its strength. It's the same thing as the Evo Royal Hogs. If the Vine spell was released even a little bit earlier in the game's timeline, people would be going even crazier than they are now. It's a 3 elixir spell that can deal more damage than arrows, freeze things for 2.5 seconds, reset certain attacks, as well as bring air troops to the ground to let your troops attack it. The thing that annoys me about all of this is that they are directly incentivized to push the threshold for stronger cards higher and higher, since they can just demand more and more money for them. The Evo Royal Ghost was supposed to cost $10 US, same as the Evo Drill when it was released, but they bumped up its price to $15 just because it was so strong. From now on, players won't pay $15 for a card unless it's as strong as the Evo Royal Ghost on release. It worries me that they are choosing to go down this path, but to be honest, it's kind of a lost cause at this point, since if they start trying to decrease the threshold by releasing increasingly weaker cards, it's gonna tank the interest in the game. I think the only thing they can do now is very slowly release more balanced cards that have very unique mechanics, so that the weakness of the card is shielded by its unique mechanic. A big thing I hate about the game is the fact that certain features in the game are literally inaccessible if you aren't either super sweaty or willing to buy the pass every season. I've been free to play for my entire Clash Royale career, and I admit that I've definitely not been super active, but there are some things that I will never be able to achieve in this game simply because of how unrealistic they are. The first one is getting all evolutions. We only get a max of 2 guaranteed Evo shards per season, and even though we do have seasonal lucky chests, even if we were to get 3 Evo shards shards per season, it's not even close to being enough, especially since they recently released 2 evolutions in one season. It's just a reality that no matter how much you grind as a free-to-play player, it is very unlikely that you will be able to keep up with the rate at which they release new evolutions. But another thing that is basically impossible is maxing out champions, and with the new update and removal of books, I really don't know how it's gonna be. It is so unreasonably difficult to level champions up to a level that you can actually use in competitive play, since you don't want to waste a book of books to get a level 12 champion up to level 13, so you can save the book of books to get it to level 14, and champions are pretty difficult to come by in normal progression. But I do admit that maxing champions is easier than keeping up with evolutions, since you can at least max out a champion through normal free-to-play means. It's just a lot of effort that I feel like not a lot of casual players are willing to put in. This one's more of a small nitpick, but it's still something that really annoys me about this game. I hope you enjoyed this video though. Thanks for watching.